I need someone to explain something to me, because either I'm crazy or Real Madrid has just put together the most ridiculous team I've seen in a long time. Cucurella, confirmed. Bernardo Silva, confirmed. Konate, confirmed. Dumfries, confirmed. Diomande, on the verge of signing. And Rodri, the World Cup MVP, Ballon d'Or winner, the best midfielder on the planet, also about to sign. All of that in a single summer, with Mourinho on the bench, with Mbappe, Vinicius, and Bellingham already in the squad, with Courtois back, and with Rudiger, Militao, Valverde, Camavinga, and Tchouaméni there too. Does anyone else feel like this shouldn't be legal? Because I do. And today I'm going to explain exactly why. What Real Madrid is doing this summer is one of the most impressive transfer market operations in football history. First, you have to understand where Real Madrid is coming from to understand what they are doing now. Because this is not a team that was doing well and signed players to be even better. It is a team that had its worst season of the last decade and responded with the most aggressive transfer window since 2009. Last season was a disaster. Carvajal suffered a serious injury and couldn't recover. Alaba couldn't either. Fran Garcia left. Real Madrid's fullbacks were literally an unsolvable problem. On top of that, Trent Alexander-Arnold arrived with all the hype in the world and failed to convince anyone. Florentino Perez went into the presidential elections with a promise. He said he was going to spend, that he was going to rebuild, that Real Madrid was going to go back to being what it has to be. And look what happened in less than 3 months since he won. 4 confirmed signings before the official transfer window even opened. 2 more on the verge of signing. And on top of that, the players who arrived for free, Bernardo Silva and Konate, are 2 of the best in Europe in their positions. Real Madrid didn't just spend well, they spent smartly, which is even harder. Let's go signing by signing, because each one has its history, and each one deserves its moment. Marc Cucurella, 50 million euros, left back, World Cup champion with Spain, the exact same player Barcelona had on their target list, and Real Madrid swooped in and took him before anyone realized. That's what Real Madrid does when they want something. They don't negotiate for months. They arrive and close the deal. And Cucurella isn't just a fullback. He is the left-back Spain needed to win the World Cup. Throughout the entire tournament, he wasn't dribbled past a single time in the knockout stage. In the semi-final against France, he contained Mbappe, Dembélé, and Olise at the same time. And in the final, he was the most controversial player of the match. Messi complained to the referee about him covering his mouth during Enzo Fernandez's sending off. And to cap off the year, Cucurella became the only player to win the 2025 Club World Cup and the 2026 FIFA World Cup in the same cycle. That player arrived at Real Madrid for 50 million. That is a price that makes absolutely no sense, completely favoring Real Madrid. Bernardo Silva, free transfer, €0. One of the best midfielders in the world over the last 5 years, arrives at Real Madrid without costing a single euro. Why? Because his contract with Manchester City ended, and Florentino Perez was there at exactly the right moment. That is not luck, it's planning. Bernardo Silva won 4 Premier League titles, a Champions League, and a Club World Cup with City. He is the player Guardiola described as the most complete he has ever coached, and Real Madrid got him for free. Ibrahima Konate, also a free transfer, also 0 cost. The French centre-back from Liverpool, 1. 94 tall, 27 years old, in the prime of his career. The same player Jurgen Klopp described as one of the best centre-backs in Europe when healthy. 27 years old, at the peak of his career, a regular international for France with Champions League experience. Real Madrid has just acquired 2 elite players in their respective positions without spending a single euro on transfer fees. That doesn't happen every year. That almost never happens. Denzel Dumfries, 17 million euros. The Inter Milan right-back who arrived at the World Cup as one of the best fullbacks in the tournament. 17 million for a Dutch international who plays in the Champions League and World Cups. That price is almost an insult to the player's level, but Real Madrid took advantage because his contract was ending and Inter needed liquidity. Barcelona wanted him as Koundé's replacement. Real Madrid was faster and more decisive. And now, the 2 who are on the verge. Ousmane Diomande, 19 years old. Ivory Coast, RB Leipzig winger, who was one of the most surprising players of the 2026 World Cup. Speed, dribbling, finishing. The player PSG publicly said they wouldn't pay for because he was in the 2nd division a year ago. Real Madrid is going to pay 120 million euros for him, making him the most expensive African player in football history. Because Florentino knows something PSG doesn't want to admit. Players who shine in a World Cup at 19 years old are never available for that price again, and PSG will find that out soon. And then there's Rodri, the World Cup MVP, the Ballon d'Or winner, the best midfielder on the planet, the brain that led Spain to win the most difficult tournament in history, the most complete player statistically in the tournament, most kilometers covered, most passes completed, 94% accuracy throughout the championship. Real Madrid offered Manchester City between 50 and 60 million euros for Rodri, the World Cup champion, the tournament MVP. That's not an offer, that's an attempted robbery. And City is considering it because Rodri has 1 year left on his contract, and they prefer to sell now rather than lose him for free. But wait, because this is where it gets really interesting. It's not just about who the players are that arrived, it's about how they fit with what Real Madrid already had. And when you start analyzing it position by position, the result is absurd. Think about the starting 11 being put together. Courtois in goal, Dumfries on the right, Konate and Militao as center backs, Cucurella on the left, Bernardo Silva, Rodri, and Bellingham in the midfield, and Vinicius, Mbappe, and Diomande up front. That three-man midfield deserves its own paragraph because I think it's the most brutal midfield trio assembled in football in the last 20 years. Rodri is the best positional pivot in the world, the one who recovers, distributes, and organizes. Bernardo Silva is the most tactically intelligent, the one who connects the lines, appears in spaces, and never loses the ball. And Bellingham is the most vertical and decisive, the one who gets into the box, scores, and changes the game. Three completely different profiles that complement each other in a way that seems designed by an algorithm. That midfield alone justifies the entire transfer window. And the defense last year, it was the team's most serious problem. This summer, Real Madrid signed the World Cup champion left-back, the best free agent center-back on the market, and the most in-form right-back from the World Cup. 3 of the 4 defensive spots reinforced in a single summer. That is not a normal rebuild. That is precision surgery. There isn't a weak spot in that starting 11. There isn't a position where you can say, there's the problem. That is what makes this transfer window different from almost any other in the club's history. In 2009, they signed Cristiano, Kaká, Benzema, and Xabi Alonso, but they arrived with defensive issues that took years to fix. This Real Madrid is plugging all the holes at the same time with the best players available in every position. That is unprecedented. And there's something else nobody is mentioning. Barcelona couldn't register their players this summer due to financial problems. They have 12 players registered in La Liga, while Real Madrid already has 22. Barcelona wanted Cucurella, Dumfries, and Bernardo Silva. Real Madrid took all of them. That's not just a successful transfer window. That is sheer dominance, and Barcelona knows it. We all follow European football closely, and we know what it means when Real Madrid moves like this. When Florentino decides he truly wants to win, not just compete, the transfer market becomes something else. It becomes a statement. And this summer is a very clear statement. Real Madrid is telling the whole world that last season was an accident, and that what's coming will be different, and they have Mourinho. You can say whatever you want about him, that he's controversial, that he's not what he used to be, that his teams play defensively, but nobody in the world of football knows how to manage a locker room full of egos and stars better than Mourinho. And this locker room they are assembling has plenty of egos and stars. Mbappe, Vinicius, Bellingham, Rodri, 4 of the 5 best players in the world on the same team. That requires someone who knows who's in charge, and Mourinho knows that better than anyone. He proved it at Inter with Zanetti, Eto'o, Milito, and Sneijder. He proved it at Real Madrid with Cristiano, Ozil, Benzema, and Xabi Alonso. He managed the most difficult locker rooms in the world. So, is Real Madrid putting together the best team in history? I'll be honest with you, because that's how we talk here. To answer that, we have to compare them to the teams that historically hold that title. Cruyff's Barcelona Dream Team in 1992, the team that invented modern football. Saki's AC Milan with Van Basten, Gullit, and Rijkaard. Guardiola's Barcelona with Messi, Xavi, and Iniesta between 2009 and 2011. Probably the best team in history so far. And the 2023 treble-winning Manchester City with Haaland, De Bruyne, and Rodri. That same Rodri, who is now on the verge of joining Real Madrid. Can they be better than Guardiola's Barcelona in terms of individual talent per position? Yes, there's a strong argument. That Barcelona had Messi. This Real Madrid has Mbappe and Vinicius. That Barcelona had Xavi and Iniesta. This Real Madrid has Rodri and Bernardo Silva. But that Barcelona also had something no team has managed to replicate. A playing identity so clear and so dominant that world football had to redesign itself to try and stop it. And that isn't built in one summer. That is built over years. So, what I can say with certainty is this. In terms of individual talent per position, this Real Madrid has the arguments to be the most complete team that has ever existed. Not the most successful yet that is decided on the pitch. Not the one with the clearest identity that is built over time. But the most complete on paper. The one with the fewest weak points. The one that gives the manager the most options at any moment of the game. And there's something people underestimate when talking about this transfer window. It's not just that they signed well, it's that they signed like this after the club's worst recent season. That says something about Real Madrid's structure that goes beyond the players. It says that when this club decides it needs to rebuild, it truly does it. Not halfway, not with just 2 signings to see what happens. It does it seriously, with 6 players in one summer, with 4 of them being World Cup champions, with 2 arriving for free, with 1 being the MVP of the most important tournament of the year, Cucurella, Bernardo Silva, Konate, Dumfries, Diomande, and Rodri. All of that with Mbappe, Vinicius, and Bellingham already in the squad. Yes, Real Madrid is breaking football again, and they are just getting started. The transfer market isn't over. Rodri hasn't signed yet, Diomande isn't official yet, and Mourinho hasn't even led a single training session. But what Real Madrid has done this summer is already enough for the rest of Europe to be watching what's coming with fear.